All right, guys, we have the top 4 action from Duels of Runeterra, number 11, North America, and that is MomentumCoop, who has been on a tear going through Bruised by God and Annie Desu. Bruised by God was day 2 of Swiss, though, so Bruised by God is also still in the top 4 at this point. But now he is taking on Random7HS, so we do have both hands in this matchup, and wow. This was a hell of a this was a hell of a 3-0. I'm not gonna lie. So I got Boulevard by my side as always. A pretty awesome gameplay coming up. Hope you guys enjoy it. Comment below with your thoughts. If you saw any misplays, saw anything. Honestly, the players would probably like the feedback as well. So without further ado, let's get into this top 4 action. Right, everybody, we are back. We have Random7HS versus MomentumCoop here, about to get started. We do have both hands, which I'm going to adjust for everybody in a second. So,
yeah, there's just a bit of a formatting issue on Random Stream. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the deck lists, which I have to hurry on because they're getting into game almost immediately. So we just saw MomentumCoop last round. Random7HS is running a pretty standard lineup. We got the Karma Ezreal, we got the Deep Sea Monsters, and sort of a newer one, he's got a Darius Freljord aggro deck with 3 copies of Basilisk Rider, really going all in on that kind of overwhelm mechanic. It looks like both players have started off. We've got Pilfer for MomentumCoop versus Sea Monsters for Random7HS. And I think Sea Monsters is widely considered to be one of the worst matchups for the Pilfer deck. There's not a lot of high-impact cards that you can steal. It is mostly toss-related stuff. You don't really care for things like Dreg Dredgers and Jettison. And, of course, Riptide Rex really doesn't pair up well into the deck, as they're usually going deep by around turn 6 or 7, so they're going to have those upgraded units, those healthy units. And, of course, the big old 13-13 tough Nautilus is just going to eat up those Riptide Rex shots absolutely no problem.
kind of a weird view with the hand. I think we can kind of see it. I don't know why I can't crop it properly.
Yeah, that is what it is. It's better than, you know, even if we see like half the hand.
We can see the whole hand. It's just kind of a little bit too much. I don't know why I don't know why it's sized like that, but we should be fine.
Gotcha. So we do see both players opening up with the 1-drops. I don't think either of them really cares to offer the trade here. Coop might want to hold back a little bit until he can get this Misfortune down, so he can guarantee an attack with that that Omen Hawk on a later turn and get off one of these pilfered goods. Yeah, and it looks like he is just going to pass that over. Doesn't want to take the trade, wants to save this up for the MF, and Jagged Butcher's not the most impactful sort of top deck in a situation like this, though it does make him a little more willing to throw this Omen Hawk away now underneath of this Dreg Dredgers. Or not. Yeah, I guess he does want to save the 2 mana for the Pilfered Goods on the Misfortune turn. Just going to float that spell mana over. If he plays this Jagged Butcher, alright, never mind. I'm a little bit lost. Maybe he's just saving up for the double Pilfered Goods on a later turn. But these Pilfered Goods at this point aren't coming out until like turn 5. And we see a Thorny Toad on the side of Random. Really doesn't impact too much. Wait, why is this Butcher a 3/3? Oh, because it's buffed by... Yeah, I was thinking... I'm over here. I'm like, Butcher's normally a 3/3, so it should be a 4/4 if he plundered, but he didn't plunder this turn, so that explains that.
So yeah, and MomentumCoop honestly is off to a really aggressive start, but it's going to slow down here in a second. He doesn't really have any other followers to follow up with, and he's got plenty of buffs to keep his stuff on the field, but that's not what he really needs right now. He needs the additional units to be playing. So this attack will be good. Misfortune's Effect basically makes it so that Jaw Hunters can't really block anything. But at the same time, Random will have to block some stuff. Otherwise, he risks taking way too much damage right now.
Yeah, I think he's just going to throw a block down onto, one of these. Actually, I mean, he can really block onto anything here. He does have the Thorny Toad. Yeah, just going to block the Omen Hawk, going for the advantage rather than the preservation of the life total. And because there is so much healing in this deck, we even see the Withering Wail in his hand over there. Does mean that he doesn't really care too much about his life total. And with Coop's hand, he's not going to have do a great job of pressuring him. Well, he's got the buffs and the Pilfered Goods. He doesn't really have the units to line up with it, as you had mentioned earlier. could get punished for this as we see more and more removal lining up in the hand of Random.
Yeah, Random definitely has the tools right now to be able to kind of stick this game out for, you know, the foreseeable future anyways, the next few turns. This Jaw Hunters always just feels so good, you know, challenging something like a Misfortune, but we will see the Fury in the North come down here to really just really be a pain in the butt for Random, because it feels really bad when you can't get rid of a Misfortune early. Misfortune is just so incredible when you do get her down early game. We were talking about earlier with the Scout decks, how we don't really see leveled up Quins that much, but we do see leveled up Misfortunes, and that's because she typically gets down a little bit faster than Quinn, and that's exactly what's happened here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to get Coop, this Misfortune, to stick and level up for a little bit later in the game.
Yeah, as much as it feels bad to not be able to kill the Misfortune, I think it also feels bad to kind of defensively use the Fury of the North, especially given the hand that you have.
Yeah.
And, oh, this is actually going to come up big to punish him. We're going to see the Grasp of the Undying onto this Misfortune, because really there's no other play Random can make this turn. But that does mean that the second Fury of the North is actually going to let him push through a lot of damage.
Yeah, and negate that grass, which is, like I said before, more important with, you know, keeping this Misfortune alive, keeping her healthy, and keeping her able to level up. So, yeah, going down to 8 this early from Random, super, super bad, not going to lie. He's going to have to do something here to kind of gain some tempo back. But 2 Withering Wail in his hand will definitely keep him healthy. And that card that everybody still wishes. I was just gonna, you know what? Never mind. I was just gonna say this freaking Sap Magic would also heal his Nexus 3, and it doesn't, but it needs to. Please, Rito, are you watching? Make it heal Nexus, please.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Random that he's lined up with a hand where he doesn't get to take advantage of the Maokai at all. That can be a phenomenal win condition against the kind of deck that Coop has brought here. But Coop actually looks like he's got a much better use out of Random's cards than he does. Picks up the Jaw Hunters and the Dead Bloom Wanderer. Riptide Rex going to get picked up as well. And finally, Random finds a Hired Gun off the top. Is going to be able to accelerate the Maokai plan a little bit. But outside of that, his hand's still not lining up super well. And he doesn't have enough attack on anything to actually take out the Misfortune, who might end up leveling without a Scout.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts when you think about it. I mean, that means it's just been legit 4 turns. I think, is she at 3 right now, or?
I think she's at 2.
She's at 2. Okay. I mean, this challenge by the get over here. This challenge will actually set her up for a Withering Wail. And I don't know if there's really any way for Coop to get around that and keep the Misfortune on the board and protect her again. It's not like he has a 3rd Fury in the North or anything like that. So I think we will finally see this Misfortune fall here on this next turn.
There are 3 Fury of the North in the deck list, though, if we can see it off the top for him. Just did want to point out the possibility of that, although it is extremely unlikely. And if you have to use all 3 Fury of the Norths defensively for your Misfortune, the one did get a little bit of offensive value as well. But yeah, Black Market Merchant isn't going to save the Misfortune, but at least he's going to get the Pilfered through and set up a great Black Market Merchant into Pilfered goods.
Yeah, so he will be able to still make use of Misfortune's effect there, which would be pretty nice. You know, this Black Market Merchant just so terrible now with only 1 health. It's just absolutely such a bad card. He's going to end up still getting all the discounted cards from Pilfered Goods, which is going to give him, you know, a slew of options, probably. We don't know what he's going to get yet from Random's deck, but we'll give him a lot of options to hopefully push through here. He has this Jaw Hunters, too, to challenge this Maokai, which is pretty big. I don't know how far away Random is from deep. I do think he's getting decently closer. I want to say he's at like 19 or 20. So he might be like 1 jettison away from it. But
I think he just hovered it and it said 20.
It said 20. Okay. So he'll get 1 more offensive turn through to do a decent amount of damage. The problem is now Random will be able to stabilize. So we're gonna have to see if Coop has enough aggression here to really make it through.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that he's... All right, I just want to point out that, like, I'm getting really confused. I keep looking back and forth between the hands to figure out which player is which, but seeing the Dead Bloom Wanderer and the the Beast Below in Coop's hand is consistently throwing me off about which one of these players is actually the Sea Monster player.
Yeah, it's especially, yeah, now that we are seeing both hands here for the top 4, yeah, it's a little confusing. Not gonna
This is
lie.
what I was talking about earlier. Picks up a Dreg Dredgers off the black market merchant, and that's a card that just really doesn't do anything. Though Coop has stolen enough toss at this point that maybe he can get himself a form or a 7/7 beast below. Will certainly have the option available once random levels this Maokai that Coop has absolutely. He's got an answer for it now with this Devour of the Depths. Potentially. Not going to actually work out thanks to the Withering Wail on the side of random, though.
Yep. Yeah, Dreg Dredgers feels bad to yoink from him, not gonna lie. And we do have confirmed in chat, Mafia Tweak said yoink. Just throwing that out there. So.
Alright, so the way that this next turn plays out is going to be a little bit awkward. Coop is going to throw down the Devourer onto the Maokai. Random is going to respond with the Withering Wail in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. And then Coop is going to be able to throw out the Vile Feast to keep the Maokai just a little bit too low. Unless Random just wants to go for this Terror of the Tides that's been sitting in his hand for a while. He doesn't, like, there aren't any blockers for it on the side of Coop currently, so maybe he just wants to push through the 9 damage, doesn't really care to keep this up if Random wants to kill the Maokai. And the proactivity seems like the play, since Random is going to have the attack token, doesn't see a whole lot of reason to just attack with the Abyssal Eye.
Yeah, Coop is going to have to keep the aggression on here, and with this Nautilus coming down, I don't know if he's really going to be able to do that. And that's, again, I mentioned this earlier, going against the deep deck, you have this window that you kind of need to win by, and that's, you know, before they go deep, and or at least like 2 turns after they go deep, because by then they can usually reestablish a big board. And we're going to see that here, because even with something like a Riptide Rex in Coop's hand, like, okay, you have a 13/13 with Tough on the field. What does Riptide even do? Absolutely nothing. So, you know, it might kill the Maokai just on the off chance that it hits it twice, stuff like that. But it's just going to be really hard for Coop to really push through this last 8 damage here.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, where it does feel like Sea Monsters is one of the worst matchups for the Yoink deck. I'll use the proper terminology, where it's just you don't put on enough early pressure to kill them right away. You do kind of have to scale into the late game and finish them off after you get down an impactful Riptide Rex, and you really just can't find an impactful Riptide Rex against a deck like this. And it's hard to get those last couple of procs on the Sejuani. Momentum has done a phenomenal job of getting her up to, I think, 3 out of 5 at this point. But ever since the Misfortune died, Random hasn't had a problem not getting hit in a turn. And now Nautilus is going to demand a block from either the Sejuani or the Ruthless Raider. I guess Deadbloom Wanderer can as well.
Yeah, it's probably going to be the Deadbloom Wanderer. He will be able to save the Black Market Merchant here with the Vile Feast, but that really just kind of seems like a consolation prize. I don't know if that really I don't know if most of the cards in his hand really have any impact anymore. I mean, that's how quick that deep decks really change. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier with the Dreg Dredgers, you know, only being 1/1 now. That change didn't really do anything because deep just cares about the late game, and now they're just doubling down further on the late game because what do you know? In the late game, they win the game. So it's yeah, 20. Yeah, he's at 8 health, but it's like at what point? Plus, he's got the Withering Wail in his hand. So, how? I guess he could set up something with Sejuani having Overwhelmed. Like if he were to draw another Fury of the North and make something vulnerable or challenge something with Sejuani, like this Dreg Dredgers, he can push through that damage. But that seems really unlikely.
It looks like Maokai's at 17 out of 25, so Random can go and level that Maokai if he wants to throw down the Deadbloom Wanderer and the Maokai Sap Magic. And with Coop this low on cards in hand, it's actually a little bit scary on both sides of the board, because Coop does have 2 Sea Monsters. Going down to 4 cards in deck does mean that this Devour of the Depths does level, and he can devour onto that Abyssal Eye. Though that's not super impactful on the overall longevity of the game. Like, that play does not get MomentumCoop back into the game by any means, and he can't even kill the Sejuani with it because she was buffed up by an Omen Hawk.
Would you say that play would not give him any momentum?
Shit, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. It's your birthday.
Oh god, I had to. It was just, it got left right there out in the open, man.
And this is even worse for MomentumCoop. He's pushing a little bit of damage through, trying to soften up the board of Random, but we're actually going to see the Maokai's Sapling Magic healing come into effect here. You know, getting some more health onto this Nautilus and this Abyssal Eye after all is said and done.
Yeah, this is looking bleak for Coop. He's starting to, and you can see Random, you know, I was mentioning him stabilizing. can see that the card advantage is pretty much even at this point now. Probably now, thanks to this sapling, even more in the advantage of random. You're going to get a Maokai that's going to level up pretty soon. This Riptide might as well come down at this point. I'm not really sure if he's ever going to get a better Riptide.
I'm pretty sure Riptide comes down right here and gets completely blown out of the water by this Maokai's sapling magic.
Yeah, like, yeah. Wow. Okay, so we are now officially seeing the one time where sap magic just completely wrecks a card without it healing the Nexus. So yeah, this is, and you definitely are not expecting, like, Coop's not thinking, man, I really hope he doesn't have a sap magic right now.
Yeah, he's just playing the Riptide Rex, knows that he has to play it. It looks like he actually would have gotten a lot done, but not going to be the case. The Maokai not even going to die because it heals to full and then levels, giving it 5 HP, and he's only hitting it for 4.
Oh, God, that feels bad. Yeah, that's, I think, yeah, sap magic OP, please nerf. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the Shen emote comes out at that point, and that's just game over. So I think the quickest thing to do here would be to hit that surrender button.
Yeah, it looks like Coop is gonna play it out though, or at least, you know, kind of destroy the quality of the match by making the Riptide Rex bullets go through. That always screws up the camera quality so much, and the Terror of the Tide's even gonna be able to come down thanks to the Nautilus reduction.
Wow. Yeah, Black Market Merchant is not going to do it for him. He basically would need a Ruination, which is not going to happen. And,
I mean, Coop doesn't die this turn. He only represents, I think, 18 damage.
Oh, 19? Wait, no. Oh, no, if he blocks the Nautilus.
Yeah, 15. I think it's 15.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Dead Bloom Wanderer getting the heal off, there's really nothing that that Coop rather is gonna be able to do to come back into this. Like I said, I'm getting the names mixed up because I keep seeing Sea Monster hands on both sides of the board.
Yeah. I know, it's really weird looking at the Beast below and Devourer just hanging out over here. We promise this is not a deep mirror match, everybody. We swear.
Everything's a mirror match when you're playing against Pilfer.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, I mean, he can devour the Nautilus. That's not nothing. It's not a phenomenal consolation bonus prize, but it is a consolation bonus prize.
Well, he can lose the game knowing that he devoured a Nautilus. Like, he's just like, well, yeah, at least I did this super cool thing here, but still lost. It's fine. Yeah, and oh, well, there goes the Atrocity. So I guess he's not winning with Atrocity. And,
I saw the Atrocity for a second and thought it was coming down onto the Nautilus and just Atrocitying for lethal. And I was like, where did that come from?
He can't even say he devoured the God, talk about insult to injury. Jesus. All right. Nope. Guess we're Riptiding it. He's deep. So you made the correct call earlier in the game in that he would eventually get a 7-7 out. And we did in fact get a 7-7 out on the side of MomentumCoop. So there you go.
Yeah, but Random still just, like, Coop might feel like he can push through this 9 damage by some miracle with this Citrus Courier, but the Withering Whale not only killing both of these Black Market Merchants if Coop does play the other one, but also just healing Random up to 7. Here we see Maokai number 2. That's going to completely stun. And Warning Shot is just the worst top deck you could have possibly had. That you always cry when that gets left in your deck by the Maokai.
Yeah. Out of all the cards, you couldn't have just left me something good to at least try to win this game. Maokai says no.
Yeah, Maokai certainly not a merciful god. And Coop is just, there's nothing that Coop can really do to come back into this. He's just absolutely dead to Random on the following turn. And this is kind of limbo. If you guys have watched this cast before, I've talked about limbo a lot, where it's like the game is over, but it hasn't ended yet. Or sorry, the game has ended, but it's not over. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
It's over, but it's not.
Yeah, it's over, but we still have a couple of minutes left to play while these players kind of play out their cards. The Sejuani is now leveled for Coop, which would be great if there was any chance in the world that there could be a Sejuani left in his deck.
And there's the surrender.
Okay, there's the surrender.
He recognized this limbo that you speak of. So that's going to be 0-1 on the side of... Oh, God, Coop. All right. Whew, that was close. and Random goes up 1. So let's see if this Misfortune Sejuani deck can go ahead and take game 2 versus whatever Random's going to play. So I'm thinking, what do you think we're going to see next here?
It's very possible that he goes for the Ezreal Karma. It does just kind of pair into the compare best into the most amount of decks left on Coop. It's not phenomenal versus the Karina, but certainly has the capabilities to beat it. But I think it pairs the best into. Oh no, he's going to go for the Darius deck. We're going to get a bit of a treat here.
Nice.
I mentioned this one a little bit earlier. It's got the Ruthless Raiders, the Iron Ballista, the Basilisk Rider, and just going all in on this Overwhelm burn strategy.
Very excited to see this. I was just talking to you earlier about, just Overwhelm potentially being an actual archetype that we can play now with some of the buffs to something like Basilisk Rider. So very excited to see this deck and Darius. So Darius also got a buff. If for anybody not familiar with the patch update, he has 1 more health at level 2, which is pretty significant, being that it was 5 health before. So curious to see if this deck can be super aggressive here and do what it's supposed to do well and win the game.
Yeah, got the potential for that decisive maneuver blowout. That card always feels really good to play alongside, a Darius or something like that. And of course, Darius, it does represent, lethal damage if he goes unblocked. And if you stun the blocker and he's leveled, that means you have 10 health and I have 10 attack. I was actually a little surprised that they buffed. I thought they were initially just buffing the health of Darius in general. I thought he was becoming a 6-mana 6/6. I didn't realize it was only on the leveled version.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, that kind of struck me by surprise too. It is only on a leveled version, whereas something like Braum, he had both levels changed.
Yeah, because I feel like a 6-mana 6/6 with Overwhelm isn't like the most overpowered thing I've ever heard of in a card game. It's just, a vanilla with trample. And sure, he's got the level up, but all the level up does give him a little bit more attack. But
yeah,
it's fine. We rarely see Darius come down unleveled or not immediately level anyway.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with that change, right, is that he can't die to something like a Radiant Guardian or just most of those 5-drop 5/5s that we see, that Moose floating around, whenever we see him pop off a Remembrance or something like that. So
the Great Horn.
Yeah, that Great Horn. So yeah, it's he just seems like he's more on par with being a 6-cost champion now.
Yeah, Jagged Butcher going to come out here to be able to block out this Crimson Disciple, and I feel like if it weren't for the Crimson units in the format, Jagged Butcher might not even see play, but getting a 3-attack unit down for 1 to be able to block onto these healthy units, even be able to block the Precious Pet, just the Fearsome, it pairs up very well into the aggro decks if you can find a way to, fire off the Warning Shot or gets pushed through a damage with an Omen Hawk on the early turns and get him to that 3-attack threshold.
Yeah, that 3 is huge in this matchup, mainly, to block something like the Crimson Disciple, so... awesome to see him able to get that plunder effect off. And we're going to see the Ruthless Raider, it looks like, come down here just to really provide, I guess, an additional blocker. Can chump block the Omen Hawk perfectly fine. You hate to see it. You hate to see the Demolitionist and the Disciple. That usually spells disaster for you against this Crimson Elusive deck.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this this deck out of random right now, trying to figure out what impactful Yoink targets there are. There's Decimates, there's Fury of the North, there's Noxian Fervor, so there's a couple of good options. The units aren't super impactful. Ruthless Raider and Iron Ballista are kind of cool. Basilisk Rider doesn't have Overwhelm if you don't have Allegiance, so that's actually going to be a pretty unimpactful steal if Momentum does happen to grab that one off the bottom.
Yeah, we shall see what gets yoinked in this matchup. It does look like he's going with the Warning Shot to go ahead and activate these plunder effects. So we are going to see an Imperial Demolitionist is stolen, which is probably not a bad thing, just to take it off the table for random, just so that he has less chance of drawing it.
Well, it's on the bottom of his deck. I don't think he's ever touching it. But...
Oh, see, I guess that's so weird to think, right? Like, I really want to know when this deck gets shuffled now. Like, at what point does the computer or the AI shuffle these decks? Because that's come up a few times in discussion with me and you now, and I don't know, man. I don't know how to make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, and here we do see the Basilisk Rider picked up, as I had mentioned. Absolutely no chance of getting the Allegiance for that one, as there's not any Noxus cards in Coop's deck, which, for a 3-mana 5/3, that's much more reasonable. I don't think he's as upset to find it for the reduced cost. But this is a really wide board on the side of Random, and with that Fury of the North, he's going to be able to push through a lot of damage on the following turn.
All right, well, using the Imperial Demolitionist to his advantage. Gotta love to see it with the one tough Ruthless Raider there. And do you just I mean, do you just like attack with everything, being that you have the make it rain? Or I mean, you don't want him to block obviously with the Crimson Disciple, so I guess you hold back the Omen Hawk.
I'm like trying to look at this and figure out how these boards actually pair up. Like, if everybody attacks and everybody blocks, which player actually comes out ahead of that one? Because they both have really weak leftover hands.
Yeah, it's really tough to see how these blocks line up. My thought is that Coop has the 2 make it rains afterwards, so anything that does live, he can clean up anyways, regardless of how Random decides to block. And it does look like he's going the route of, okay, I'm going to hold back the Omen Hawk. He can't get an additional proc on the Crimson Disciple. And he's only also got 1 mana, so he can't play something like Transfusion to really mess with anything. So I do think this is the smart play here.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, and because Random is so low on cards, Coop's not necessarily too afraid of hitting that Disciple with the Make It Rain. It does only represent 2 more damage, but with both players kind of running out of cards and MomentumCoop having this 5/3 to sort of build back up on the board with, it's not going to be too upset, though it does look like this actually plays out pretty well for Random in terms of what is left on the board.
Yeah,
actually, that block does rearrange it a little. Oh, nope. He's still thinking about it.
Yeah, it's going back for it. I think that shows me he's really thinking about, whether or not he wants to keep this Crimson Disciple, and that might be a read for Coop as to, what might be in Random's hand. Maybe there is a Transfusion in there, maybe another Imperial Demolitionist, something that he's thinking he might want to trigger that Crimson Disciple with. So we'll see what his next draw is here.
That's a pretty impactful draw for Coop.
Yeah.
He's Make It Rain. It's going to get a little bit done, but not a lot. Really not much at all. Because I think you don't want to block this Disciple.
No, I mean, that's the problem. I think what he's doing here, I think, is smart. You can't really play the Make It Rain until this Crimson Disciple's off the board. I was just going to say, do you just block it just for the sake of being able to clear the board afterwards, knowing that you have the Citrus Courier?
I feel like you're supposed to fire it off in combat to kill the Saboteur and save yourself a little bit of health, though I'm not sure it actually matters. You're going down to about 9 HP. Random does have a fair amount of burn. Once you go down to 9, then you're in that Darius range, and that's where things get a little bit scary, especially given your hand. You would have to get the Citrus Courier down on the following turn.
Yeah.
So looks like he's actually just going to throw the Make It Rain value out the window.
Yeah, I think he's just going for the safe block here. I mean, it's good value trades. The Omen Hawk trades nicely with the Saboteur. Obviously, he gets to keep the Demolitionist. Does take the 3 damage, but yeah, that Citrus Courier, like you said, super impactful. It's going to do work for him on the next turn or the turn after, being able to heal 3, because honestly, with Random only having 3 cards left, I'm not seeing him being able to push through 10 damage plus 3 on top for this Citrus Courier.
So it's a little bit... If MomentumCoop had gone for the high roll Make It Rain and he had actually high rolled it and he hit the Crimson Disciple and the Legion Saboteur, he would be at 11. But now he's at 10 and Random has Darius, and Coop is not going to be able to play the Citrus Courier before Random gets down to Darius. And Darius doesn't care where your health bar goes after he's seen it be at that 10.
So I think at this point, too, we can see in Random's hand, he's got the Darius, he's got the Fury of the North. At this point, I think he's kind of just, all right, I'm going to go all in on getting this Darius out, putting a Fury of the North on it, and just try to do one overwhelming attack and get the job done. So he needs to make sure that this Darius is able to live here.
Yeah, and Coop actually didn't go for the Citrus Courier play. Instead got down the Misfortune.
Yep.
And that does mean that he's a little bit more vulnerable to this Darius. I mean, like an attack with the Basilisk Rider, there we go, could just get blocked out by the Ruthless Raider, and then I don't think the health bars actually line up in Coop's favor. I'm pretty sure this Darius with the Fury of the North and the Legion Saboteur especially is just going to be lethal.
Yeah, that's one of the things with Darius, man. Like, you don't ever think Darius, you're like, Darius isn't that great of a champion. It's not a big deal. Like, he's just this big dude. I'll kill him. It's not a big deal. When you pair him, like, you could tell he's been sitting on, he's had that Fury of the North for a little while. He knows Darius is overwhelmed. All right, I'm just going to bide my time. Doesn't really matter how little cards I have in my hand. If I just have this 15 attack unit with Overwhelm on the field when my opponent has 10 health, he's going to die anyways. So he's just been sitting on this strategy, and he's going to get rewarded for it because he could just open attack next turn for game.
Yeah, and I have to wonder if Coop had actually fired off the Make It Rain and was able to high roll it with the initial blocks that he had lined up and lived at 11, would Random actually have been able to come back into this game? I think the answer is yes, because we do see the Legion Saboteur that would have pushed through the 1 damage and then made Darius level up mid-combat, though Coop would have had the opportunity to fire off the Citrus Courier if he was really thinking about how the Darius would impact the rest of the game, and he might have been able to get himself into a threshold. While it was a very awkward line to take, and I want to point out that I don't think Coop necessarily hard misplayed this or anything like that, but I think there was a universe where he actually could have won this game.
I do. No, I agree. Oh wait, you're saying you do think there was a universe where he could have won?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if the cards were played slightly differently, I think he could have won because of that Citrus Courier. And again, I can't necessarily see, at least from what we were casting, maybe any specific large mistake that he might have made. But yeah, I just feel like if he did play that a little bit differently, he would have been in a much better position. He would have been in a healthier position with more health with the Citrus Courier. Would have loved to see the Citrus Courier come down earlier. I think that would have made the biggest difference, honestly.
Yeah, once he had fallen down to 10, there wasn't an opportunity for him to get it down without Darius at least seeing the health bar. But if he did go up to 13, I'm pretty sure he still would have lived, as he would have had the 5 health unit on board. So, it was just the not going for the Make It Rain. And I do want to point out the Make It Rain would have had to hit both the Disciple and the Legion Saboteur for things to work out in the way that I was describing. So you do have to high roll that. But not playing the Citrus Courier on the next turn does mean that, the Darius does just kill you.
Now, something I want to mention here with this matchup, we have Ezreal Karma versus the Misfortune Sejuani, and we have not, at least I haven't today anyways. I don't know if you saw any day one, but I haven't seen any Ezreal Karma today. How was day one?
There were a couple. I think that the only real difference between Heimervi and Ezreal Karma is that perceivably Ezreal Karma has a better aggro matchup because you are fine firing off your removal as quickly as possible. You take better advantage of Eye of the Dragon and things of that nature. You do have a little bit of slightly different vulnerabilities than the Heimervi, but the decks are relatively close in power level. So I think the Heimervi the Karma Ezreal is kind of coming out as an adaptation for those players that are still bringing the 3 aggro lineups, trying to 3-0 that Heimervi. It's a little bit harder to do that to the Karma Ezreal.
Yeah, and we're going to see why right here. I mean, we already have the Eye of the Dragon down. It'll start being able to generate some of those Dragon Link tokens, which are going to be hard for Coop to overcome. He isn't able to get this Jagged Butcher down, it seems, without or with the actual Plunder effect. He does have to chum the waters, and we have seen this all day. This is what you were talking about earlier, where on turn 3, you can't actually be playing a chum the waters, and honestly, I don't know. That might be the play here. He could just play a Misfortune going into next round as well, but Chum the Waters does not feel half bad on this Eye of the Dragon right now.
Yeah, and I do kind of want to talk about Random's sort of a removal suite at the moment, just because we do see some variations in it. So we've got the 3 Mystic Shot, the 3 Static Shock. That's pretty standard. Keeping in 2 copies of the Get Excited, no copies of Gotcha, then of course the Concussive Palm, things of that nature. But as far as hard removal for fast speed, it's just the Mystic Shot, Get Excited, Static Shock. Of course, Will of Ionia as well, but it does mean that this Longtooth is actually pretty likely to get value off onto this Eye of the Dragon. Of course, we see Random's hand, know that 1 Mystic Shot was the only protection he had for this. Unless you want to Will of Ionia the Longtooth, which I guess isn't the worst play in the world. How much mana is Longtooth? He's 4 mana. Well, he just hovered it for like half a second.
Yeah, and with him being 4 mana, it's not too bad. You still get the added vulnerable on the Eye of the Dragon, obviously, but you might have to, honestly, because you're going to take 2 damage just from the Longtooth attacking, plus the Longtooth sticks around. The problem is you're not going to get the Eye of the Dragon's effect off because you're only playing the Will of Ionia. It's only 1 spell. Feels kind of bad. You need to start getting that train rolling. He is still at 20 health, so he might not be too concerned about that. But, that might be the route he takes with 2 Will of Ionia in his hand. His hand's kind of, honestly, not that great right now. He doesn't have too many options that he can... I mean, he's almost just forced to play Deep Meditation at 5 mana next turn, so...
Yeah, it's definitely not an Eye of the Dragon hand.
No.
It's way too expensive for something like that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking Coop might get down the Misfortune, is instead going to go for the second Chum the Waters.
And he's actually...
not going to come out?
Wow. I would have liked to see a Will of if he Will of Ionia the Shadow Assassin, the Longtooth would not have come out, correct?
Correct, but I do think there is a fair amount of merit to Will of Ionia in this matchup, whereas Deny, I think there's like 2 deniable things in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm trying to
We've got Make It Rain, Chum the Waters, and Misfortune Ability.
Yeah.
And a single Riptide Rex proc.
Yeah, so, and Make It Rain would probably be the only other one you can argue, and a lot of times it's probably not going to be worth it. So, yeah, I agree. That's probably a good shot. I mean, I don't know. My only consideration with his hand is that his hand seems so that I want an additional draw with the Shadow Assassin to kind of start digging through my deck a little bit.
That's definitely a consideration. It looks like instead he's decided to sort of build up these Mystic shots with the Ezreal. That's going to be able to take the Longtooth off the board. And I don't think he was too upset to lose the Eye of the Dragon overall. As we had mentioned, it's going to be a while before he'd be able to string together multiple spells in a turn and actually start to get value off of that.
Yeah, and now that 2 Chum the Waters are gone, I actually kind of like this by random. You know, there's not a whole lot of ways that this Ezreal is going to get removed off the board early on. So he's actually, I think he's in a pretty good shot right now, being able to just constantly attack the Nexus with this Ezreal, get some more free Mystic shots for some targets, and really start to take control of the game. And he is not playing Hired Gun in this deck. That's something else to, I guess that's the key difference. It almost seems like he traded out the Hired Gun for the Chum the Waters. Which I actually kind of like that trade. I feel like I kind of, after seeing Chum the Waters so much now, I kind of like Chum the Waters better than Hired Gun. I don't know.
I definitely like it more than the trade that we saw Anidesu made, where he took out the Hired Guns for Starlit Seers. I definitely prefer Chum the Waters over that card.
Yeah.
I think as long as you've got something to get vulnerable, it's pretty fine. I do think there is value in finding that niche turn 3 play that you don't typically have. I'm not convinced it's better than Hired Gun just yet, though I am willing to be convinced.
Oh, and that's actually, totally forgot Sejuani. So with it being turn 6, Sejuani can come down and actually kill the Ezreal. So actually, with that being said, I'm not sure if that was good to play the Ezreal into turn 6 like that. He will have the Will of Ionia to kind of put it off for another turn. So maybe his game plan right now is that even with the Sejuani, he knows he has another Will of Ionia to fall back on. Again, why he probably denied, that first card that we were talking about earlier, the Chum the Waters, instead of Will of Ionia. Will of Ionia-ing? Is that a word?
I think so. So I'm actually a little interested in this line by Coop. He decided to challenge the Ezreal with the Sejuani instead of the Avarice and Trapper. And when you're lining up your attacks onto the vulnerable unit, you have to consider Will of Ionia. Now, Sejuani is the least mana efficient card to get Will of Ionia, but it's possible that he just wanted it back in his hand so that he could make the play again on turn 8.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's, again, why I think that Random is doing what he's doing in regards to having the other Will of Ionia. I think he's kind of expecting that from Coop. And I imagine that once Coop swings back around to an attack turn, we're just going to see kind of the same interaction happen once again.
Yeah, and these Avarice and Trappers might actually be sort of the difference maker for Coop. I think typically Karma Ezreal pairs very well into the Pilfer deck, but the 1-mana 5/5s were one of the things that started to give the Ashe Sejuani deck a lot of legs up in some of the Piltover and Zaun matchups, and we'll see if Coop can actually ride this Yeti home to victory. I don't think he's super well poised to do it, but Random is sitting on a lot of dead cards. These deep meditations aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, and Rayma's Games in chat actually said he might have, or he should have actually pulled the Trapper into the Ezreal, having the Trapper get bounced, and it's actually an interesting point because you even said the Yetis might pose a problem to Random, right? And if he did get the Trapper back, it's more mana efficient, and he also would have gotten an additional Yeti. So that would have put a lot more pressure on Random, having multiple 5/5s on the board, in addition to the Sejuani having gotten some damage through that turn and staying on the board. That, in retrospect, might have been the right choice.
Yeah, Coop rather was definitely setting up to play the Sejuani again on turn 8. Never mind. He's so the whole reason that I could see challenging the Ezreal with the Sejuani is because you want it back in hand so that you can try this again on turn 8.
I agree. Yeah.
Understanding that it is your only avenue for actually killing this Ezreal. But if he's going for the open attack here, then I really don't know if something major has changed in the last couple of turns or if it was just a significant misplay on the part of MomentumCoop, because I feel like that's the only
Well,
reason you would ever challenge with the Sejuani.
you have a Riptide now. So
That's true.
the Riptide, I mean, literally, that draw might have just changed that whole plan. So he might have played that Sejuani before that. Because I agree with you. I think that was the reason why he wouldn't have wanted to do the Trapper as opposed to the Sejuani. So it looks like we are going to go ahead and see the Riptide with Misfortune's effect being able to proc that Plunder effect. And yeah, this board is going to be in a pretty sorry state after this. And I think Ezreal's only at like, what, 5 targets or 4 targets? Well, never mind. So he'll be at 6 now, I think.
Yeah, I actually didn't see the Riptide all the way to the right of the hand. It's so far off.
Oh, yeah, you know. Let's see if I can.
I wonder if this Riptide is enough. Like, is that enough to get Coop back into this game?
I mean, it's gonna kill the Ezreal and then do what, 5 damage to face. So
Yeah, and Random really doesn't have a lot left in hand. He's got some deep meditations, but those don't represent a defensive board state to stop Coop from just continuing to go wide on the following turn.
Well, no, but they're gonna thin his deck a lot, which means his next draw is. I mean, if he is able to get both deep meditations off this turn, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He does have the hand space for it. That is he recalling the? He's recalling the Ezreal, right? Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess just understanding that this Ezreal is his best chance to win the game. He's not going to be able to get it back down this turn, but he is going to be able to level it pretty soon. I think he's going for a Mystic Shot onto the Misfortune this turn. Could even just save the mana, go for the Ezreal attack next turn, which actually isn't going to work out. He should know that if he plays the Ezreal, Coop should be happy to throw down the Sejuani. This Karma could change everything. That is exactly what Random needed.
Yeah, wow, okay. And we saw the Ezreal is definitely at 6 now, or is that 7?
I don't know. We'll see after this Mystic Shot.
Yeah, we'll know right after this.
I think it was at 6, and then he targeted his own unit. Yeah, it's still at 6.
Rito, spectator mode, please.
So this Mystic Shot won't quite level it, but the Will of Ionia on the following turn will.
Yeah. Wow, and it's on his attack turn too. So that is probably the draw that's going to potentially save this for him, especially considering wow. He's got wait. If he plays this Karma this turn, was Mystic Shot his only other spell that he played?
Yes, he will not be able to fire off the deep meditations.
Okay, so that's going to hurt a little bit that he's not able to do that. He could wait to play the Karma until next turn and then just play the deep meditations this turn. I don't know if that's a consideration.
I'm trying to figure out if he has lethal on the following turn if he plays Karma. I think the answer is no, because the Will of Ionia isn't going to deal any damage because that's going to level the Ezreal.
Yep.
And then you have, 6 mana left to play with. You'll have the randomly created spell by Karma. You have the Mushroom, 5 mana Deep Meditations, a Key Guardian that you can't play unless you draw a unit.
Yeah, I think because those Deep Meditations are going to be so...
Ooh. That's interesting. Going for the Will of Ionia to level the Ezreal, getting the damage through, and that is going to create a Mystic Shot in hand to help him clear off a bit more of this board. He really does just need to survive the next turn. Okay, he's going to go for the... Yeah, I think this could be lethal. That's going to be 7 health on the side of MomentumCoop, and that does mean that he's got 9 mana of burst spells. Yeah, I think Random7HS has actually found the win here. Because this is all burst speed. That's 8 damage. Oh yeah, that's just game over. Random picks this one up.
Like, wow, this Karma is so good. He's like, dude.
We got baited by the Karma. But yeah, as soon as MomentumCoop goes to make a move, Random's going to be able to pick this one up, and I believe that will be the set 3-0 for Random 7. MomentumCoop unable to pick up any wins with this Pilfer deck, sort of a powerhouse of the unified format before it. Fits a little more awkwardly into the regional lineups of the region-locked formats, but yeah, a little surprised to see MomentumCoop never switch off this deck, deciding that it is the most powerful sort of thing that he has, and it just didn't work out for him here. looks like Coop actually does know that he's dead, trying to find something off of the pilfered goods, but without any health potions in Random's deck to steal, that's going to be game over. Of course, health potion wouldn't save him anyway, as Random does have a significant amount of burst speed spells.
Yeah, wow. That's very nice. They get excited on top just in case. You never know.
Yeah.
And that's going to be game 3-0, giving them the victory fanfare music for Random. All right, guys, that is it. If you guys are looking for the finals action, a link to that will be below. It's actually going to be on a Twitch VOD, so definitely check that out. The finals ended up being Bruised by God versus Random7HS. So definitely check it out. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. And peace out.